DD India.
Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next hour, a jury in Delaware finds Hunter Biden, the son of US President Joe Biden, guilty on 3 felony gun charges. The jury convicts him of lying about his drug use to illegally buy a gun. The World Bank says India will remain the world's fastest growing major economy, recording steady growth over the next 3 years, including the ongoing financial year. Malawi's Vice President, Dr. Saulos Chilima, and 9 other people, including his wife, are killed in a plane crash. The flight had gone missing on Monday. And India's Dr. S. Shankar reassumes charge of external affairs, focusing on world matters, including resolving issues with China and Pakistan. Other ministers also take on new responsibilities. Also, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak promises to cut $21.7 billion in taxes for the working class in his manifesto. But his Conservative Party remains stuck behind rivals Labour by 20 points in opinion polls. Also, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken terms Hamas's acceptance of a UN resolution backing a ceasefire plan in Gaza as a hopeful sign during his 8th visit to the war-torn region since the latest conflict began. Well, first up, this is big news coming in from the US. President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, has been found guilty of all counts by a jury and the fault is that he's lied about his drug use to illegally buy a gun. A verdict Democrats may seize upon to counter Donald Trump's claim of a justice system weaponized against him. A jury in Wilmington, Delaware federal court found him guilty on all 3 counts, making Hunter Biden the first child of a sitting US president to be convicted of a crime. A verdict of the 12-member jury must be unanimous on each count, and that's what seems to have happened in this particular case. Let me take you across to DD India's Nick Harper for more on this, joining us from Washington, D.C. Nick, what more can you tell us, first of all, about this verdict?
Well, Gordon, this is breaking news here in the United States. Those verdicts being read out in a court in the US state of Delaware in the last 20 minutes or so. The jury coming back after just 3 hours of deliberation after a week-long trial, and coming back with the verdict that Hunter Biden is guilty on all 3 charges. All of this relating to a gun purchase that he made back in 2018 in the state of Delaware at a time that he was addicted to drugs. Now, in the United States, in order to buy a firearm, you are not allowed to be using drugs or be addicted to them. And the problem was that as part of the purchasing of a gun, you need to state on a federal form that you are not a drug user or addicted to drugs. However, Hunter Biden filled out this form saying that he was not a drug user at a time that he was. And therefore, all 3 charges relating to lying on those forms and also owning a gun while being a drug user. It is a significant ruling coming back from this court, and coming back as quickly as it has. We heard from inside the courthouse that Hunter Biden himself really showed no emotion during the reading of those verdicts. He had his arms crossed. He looked down at one point. We're just waiting to find out whether or not he decides to make a statement outside the courthouse a little later on today.
Yes, wasn't Hunter Biden's defense here that at the time that he bought the gun, he believed that he was no longer addicted, that he's been through a de-addiction process, and that is why when he said that he was not an addict, he believed that to be true. Why didn't that argument wash with the jury?
Well, part of the problem was that there was testimony against him from former girlfriends, but also testimony that was included into evidence in the form of his memoir, his diary, which made it clear at the time that he was still addicted to drugs. The prosecution saying that, therefore, that very much undermined Hunter Biden's own defence, the defence team trying to say that there was not an addiction problem at the time. And it's really what comes next which could cause not just complications for Hunter Biden, but also for the president himself. There is a possibility of up to 25 years in prison for Hunter Biden, or a fine of up to $750,000. Now, the legal thinking is that as a first-time offender, he is unlikely to serve jail time. But further down the road, there is perhaps an even more significant court case in September in Los Angeles, all to do with the non-payment of about $1.4 million in taxes that Hunter Biden should have paid for the federal government but did not. He will have to defend himself, therefore, in court on the other coast of the United States in just a few months' time. And there is a fear from legal experts who say that that is perhaps the case that could be even more weighty, even more significant, and could involve even more punitive measures if he is found guilty at that second trial in just a few months' time.
And how could this have a bearing on the race that we've been talking about for quite some time, that will only intensify from here further? Some would say the scales have been balanced. Donald Trump found guilty. Here, Hunter Biden, not Joe Biden, found guilty of a crime. How would it reflect on the overall presidential battle?
Yeah, very interesting, because, of course, Donald Trump being found guilty just a couple of weeks ago, and now we have another hugely consequential but also historical verdict. Now, Donald Trump's argument is that the Justice Department has been weaponized against him. With these guilty verdicts for Hunter Biden, the son of the Democratic president, it is therefore perhaps slightly harder for Donald Trump to make those claims. It is also for the Democratic president, Joe Biden, who's running for re-election, to make the case that Donald Trump, as a convicted felon, is unfit for office, because, of course, as the father of Hunter Biden, there is some difficulty in that argument. I think it's also worth bearing in mind that Joe Biden has said that he would not pardon his son if there was a guilty verdict. He said that a week ago. We have that guilty verdict now, and of course we'll have to see if Joe Biden changes his mind, but he made it very clear that he did not intend to pardon his son as a result of any guilty conviction.
And could there be further consequences of this particular verdict, in the sense that there have been allegations that have been floating around that Hunter Biden misused his position as being the son of a vice president at that time? Joe Biden was in office at that time, and that he garnered certain foreign contracts as well by virtue of that, and where it's been alleged that Joe Biden has had a role.
Well, that's right, and that's something that Republicans on Capitol Hill have been looking at for many months, an inquiry that is taking place to look at Hunter Biden's business links, to find out if he made any money illegally and whether or not Joe Biden had any links to that. I think it's worth of investigations. The Republicans on Capitol Hill have not been able to put forward any concrete evidence to substantiate their claims. But perhaps with these guilty verdicts, it may galvanise their determination to continue that process, to see what they can unearth and to see if they can find any connections between business dealings of Hunter Biden and the president. One to watch, undoubtedly, in the months ahead before that November election. Well, let's see if there is further developments taking place on that front, because that would be a totally different prospect if something substantial, prosecutable could be emerging there. Till then, we'll have to wait and see what implications does it have for the contest that's coming up in November for the presidential post, where Joe Biden is running again, and so is, for all practical purposes, is Donald Trump. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment. Now, the World Bank has revised its global economic growth forecast for 2024, saying that the world economy will expand 2.6% this year, up from 2.4% it had forecast in January. This updated outlook will match the 2.6% growth recorded in 2023, driven largely by sustained economic performance in the United States. India
also saw a forecast upgrade for 2024 to 6.6 from 6.4% in January amid strong domestic demand. Despite the improved forecast, the World Bank cautions that global growth remains sluggish compared to historical standards. The world's poorest countries are particularly burdened by heavy debt and high interest rates. Malawi's Vice President Saulos Klaus Chilima, whose plane went missing in dense forest on Sunday, was declared dead the next day. In a press statement, Malawi's President Chakwera announced all 9 members on board have been killed. The President expressed deep condolences to the families. The departed Vice President Saulos Klaus Chilima was a business executive turned politician and assumed the Vice President's office in 2020. He was also seen as a potential candidate in next year's presidential race.
The search and rescue operation I ordered to find the missing plane that carried our Vice President and 9 others has been completed, and the plane has been found. And I am deeply saddened and sorry to inform you all that it has turned out to be a terrible tragedy.
Well, let's get you more on this development with DD India's Daniel Kijo joining us from Dar es Salaam. Now, Daniel, how is Malawi absorbing the news of this plane crash? And are there any details as to what really happened, why it happened?
Well, the whole of Malawi is saddened by the news. We've just saw the president this afternoon make a national address confirming what many in Malawi had feared, that indeed the bodies have been found and the plane has been found. What we know is currently the bodies are being carried to the capital city of Lilongwe. And of course, a lot of citizens wonder exactly what was wrong with the plane. What happened? Was it the bad weather and the fog that was around that high mountainous and high forest area? But as it stands, a lot of the people we spoke to are very saddened because the late Chilema was a very popular political figure who was very much in touch with, in the hearts of Malawi, the Malawi people. So as it stands, it was a shock because it was not something that was due to a long being sick or illness, but something that hit them early, yesterday morning. And what is perplexing and saddening further is the fact that he was going to a funeral of a late former cabinet member in the northern part of the country. The plan was he would go to that funeral and quickly return to the capital city to bid farewell to the president who was going to the Bahamas. We know that because of the urgency of this tragedy, the president of Malawi cut short that Malawi trip and is in country and consoling his people. There will be steps from the next funeral steps will be announced by the president in the coming hours.
All right. Now, it is strange, but a crash also took place in Iran, and now a race is on to replace President Raisi there. What sort of a political vacuum has been left by Vice President Chilima's death, and how's it likely to be filled?
Well, what we know is that he was a very popular political figure, like I said, and especially among the young voters, the young base of Malawi, the majority of the people, the more than 50% population of Malawi. The man was considered a kingmaker. We spoke to citizens who said even in the last elections, they voted for the current president because of Mr. Chilema, the late Chilema, because of him supporting the current president. And now it looks it might be challenging, next elections for the ruling party, because he was a strong figure in the ruling party and in government. So there could be definitely a strong vacuum left. A lot of them feel that opposition parties like the MCP and others that have been hot on the heels of the ruling party might also gather power after losing such a prominent figure for the ruling party. So it's yet to see exactly the dynamics, but especially among the young youth population, they've been really saddened and they were really looking forward to him, perhaps even if he was not going to compete compete or try and become president, whoever he would run with would definitely get a strong boost by his presence. So that gap and that vacuum is yet to be filled, and in the next coming months, exact the political situation and arena towards the election in Malawi will become more clear.
Yes, certainly. Let's hope so. Daniel, thanks a lot for joining us. And well, it is a time of mourning in Malawi, and for a lot of people who, of course, really did believe that he could be a leader for the future as well, the Vice President there. Now, still to come on DD India News Hour. The head of the largest party in the European Parliament says EU elections have set the bloc in a centre-right direction. 4 American educators stabbed in China's Jilin province. China's foreign ministry calls it a random incident. And South Korean forces fired warning shots on Sunday after North Korean troops accidentally crossed their shared border.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. The families of hostages in Israel on Tuesday called on Joe Biden to secure a deal that will release all hostages. Protesters gathered outside a hotel where U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was meeting with Israeli officials and families of the hostages during his short visit to Israel. Blinken said Hamas' signal of support for UN-backed Gaza truce deal is a hopeful sign.
Well, I say it is a hopeful sign, just as the statement that they issued after the president made his proposal 10 days ago was hopeful, but it's not dispositive. What is dispositive, at least what's so far been dispositive one way or another, is the word coming from Gaza and from the Hamas leadership in Gaza. That's what counts, and that's what we don't have yet. And that's why I say we're waiting to see. Everyone has said yes, except for Hamas. And if Hamas doesn't say yes, then this is clearly on them.
Let's find out more about what's really happening as far as working out this peace deal or a ceasefire deal is concerned. Kate Fisher joins us from Washington, D.C. about it. Good evening to you, Kate. Now, Secretary Blinken has termed it a hopeful sign that Hamas has welcomed the UN resolution backing the three-stage ceasefire deal. But what has he been doing during his 8th visit to the region since the war broke out to ensure that the deal is sealed? Because he says it hinges on the Hamas's leadership in Gaza, and nothing has emerged from there yet.
That's right. He's saying, although there have been positive responses from Hamas about this deal, senior members of the group saying that they are cautiously optimistic about it. He's saying the problem is the leader, the key Hamas leader in Gaza, is yet to say that he accepts it. Also, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli leader, has yet to say officially that he accepts it. There have been senior members of both the Israeli government and the Hamas leadership who have said that they are open to this, but it is clear that the US and the UN Security Council needs the top men in charge of both of these warring parties to come out and say they agree with it. And until then, we still don't have a definitive deal on the table. And Antony Blinken, as you say, has been to the region now 8 times since the war began on October the 7th. He spent yesterday speaking to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and he told reporters after that he had got assurances from Benjamin Netanyahu that he did support this deal. But as I say, that has yet to come out publicly or officially. And so despite the fact, as Antony Blinken said again, that 14 out of 15 members of the United Nations Security Council supported and voted for this deal, that includes China and Russia abstain. Those two are the countries that have not been as supportive of US initiatives as yet. That has been, he says, that is a showing that the international community wants this to go through, and that if Hamas and Israel don't agree, they will become increasingly isolated on the world stage.
Yes, we've seen the international community making a lot of urging, really, in terms of how that humanitarian conference has also gone, which is taking place in Amman. But where Antony Blinken is concerned, he also met Israel's opposition party leader Yair Lapid in Tel Aviv earlier on Tuesday. Now, is he closer to ensuring that Israel also accepts President Biden's ceasefire proposal?
Well, he certainly seems, that is the impression that he is giving since after those meetings. He has said that Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, told him in those meetings that he did support this deal. And in fact, a senior Israeli official came out with a statement after those meetings saying that the deal did achieve this war, which includes destroying Hamas's capabilities, getting those Israeli hostages out of Gaza. And so there are positive signs from the Israeli camp that this is a deal that they would accept. And that is why in his comments that you just heard there, Antony Blinken stressing that it was now time for Hamas to come out, the top official from Hamas who is in Gaza currently, to come out and say that he too accepts this deal. So there does seem to be a suggestion from both sides that they are open to this, yet there hasn't been this concrete acceptance of it from either leader. And that is what Antony Blinken, by making those statements, is trying to put pressure on both of them to come out and say that they will push forward with this. This is a 3-phase deal. Initially, a ceasefire, a temporary ceasefire, and the exchange of those Israeli hostages for some prisoners, Palestinian prisoners who are in Israeli jails. And then moving on in a 3rd phase to rebuilding Gaza without Israeli soldiers on the ground there.
All right, so we'll have to wait and see what these two sides themselves have to say in an official manner, coming to one table and then moving forward from there on these 3 points. Let's wait and see what happens. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Kate Fisher from Washington, D.C. Now, after a fractured verdict in the 2024 European elections, the stakes are high as issues such as economic recovery and climate change are taking centre stage. Political leaders and representatives convened for the first time since the announcement of the EU poll results. Meanwhile, sporadic violence erupted in France, where the French police fired tear gas against activists protesting the far-right significant gains in the European Union elections. More details in this report.
Following election results for European Parliament, the leaders have now begun their talks with other parties. On Tuesday, the leaders of centre-right European Party, People's Party, held meeting with representatives of other political parties.
The main direction for Europe is clear. It's a centre-right Europe, which people gave us. And that means that the European People's Party is in an important role to be ready to negotiate with all the others in a democratic way, but also define the key elements for the next upcoming years, and that is competitiveness and security.
Following the loss, French President Emmanuel Macron announced the snap election. But for many, it was a risky move.
To be very honest with you, the situation in France obviously is specific. However, we will see how the outcome is going to be. I think it's a very risky move that has been taken now. And for us, obviously, it makes the situation in the European Parliament even more important to stay stable and to build these pro-European majorities.
France's far-right National Rally president said that his party is ready to govern if they obtain a majority in the upcoming parliamentary elections.
We are ready to govern. We have a number of texts and bills which are obviously ready to come into force. In the context of a coalition government, we obviously cannot do everything that the Presidency of Republic allows us to do, but we can do things for purchasing power, for security, for immigration.
Protesters took to the streets of Paris on Monday following the results of Sunday's European parliamentary election, in which Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally party scored big wins. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, the German President of the European Union's powerful executive body, emerged strengthened from the election. But to secure a second five-year term, von der Leyen needs the support of a majority of the EU's national leaders. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, also weakened by a poor election result, said on Monday he favoured a quick decision on the EU leadership posts. While he did not endorse von der Leyen publicly, his government is widely expected to support her. Voters in the 27 countries of the European Union elected 720 lawmakers to the European Parliament for the next 5 years on Sunday. Bureau Report, DD, India.
Now, with the spectre of election defeat looming large, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has unveiled a bold pledge to slash taxes by $17 billion. That's $21.7 billion US dollars for working Britons, aiming to reverse dismal polling prospects. Take a look at this report.
On Tuesday, Conservative Party of the United Kingdom unveiled its manifesto, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak promising significant tax cuts and assistance for the first-time home buyers, outlined his vision for the country in the upcoming July 4 election.
We will pay for permanent reductions in taxation by controlling the unsustainable rise in working-age welfare that has taken off since the pandemic. In this party, we believe that it is morally right that those who can work do work, and that hard work is rewarded with people being able to keep more of their own money. So we will ensure that we have lower welfare so that we can deliver lower taxes.
Sunak additionally committed to reducing migration numbers by half, increasing housing constructions and offering financial aid to individuals purchasing their first homes.
In the next Parliament, we will go even further, delivering 1.6 million new homes by speeding up planning on brownfield land in our inner cities and by scrapping defective EU laws.
The public in UK continues to wrestle with a 21% surge in shop prices over the last 3 years. Additionally, they are dealing with the aftermath of the tumultuous tenure of Rishi Sunak's predecessor, Liz Truss, whose economic policies resulted in higher borrowing costs and increases in mortgage rates. Furthermore, the Conservative Party faces a challenge from the right-wing Reform UK Party led by Brexit campaigner Nigel Farage, who has pledged to spearhead a revolt against the Conservatives. Surveys consistently show the Conservatives trailing by about 20% behind Keir Starmer's Labour Party. Syed Absarul Hassan for DD India.
Tensions have escalated further after the Korean balloon gate. South Korea's military fired warning shots at over the weekend after some North Korean soldiers briefly crossed the border amid a recent rise in tension over Pyongyang's launch of balloons carrying trash into the south. The incident came as the north has sent thousands of balloons containing trash in recent days to the south, including hundreds over the weekend, calling it a response to a campaign by North Korean defectors in the south who've flown balloons carrying anti-Pyongyang leaflets in the other direction over the border. 4 American educators from an Iowa university were injured in a stabbing attack in a public park in northeast China's Jilin province. The group had been visiting a temple in Bishan Park when they were attacked by a man with a knife. Meanwhile, China's Foreign Ministry on Tuesday said the incident was a random attack and that it would not affect normal people-to-people exchanges between China and the United States.
据了解，6月10
4 foreign teachers from Jilin University were attacked while sightseeing in Bison Park. All the injured individuals were immediately taken to the hospital and were given appropriate critical care. No one's life is in danger. The preliminary judgment from the police is that this case is a random incident. Currently, further investigations are underway.
目前正在进一步调查中。
Let's now take a look at some of the other updates coming in from around the world. Volunteers in the Swiss town of Forel are using drones to locate unattended fawns in agricultural fields. This does leave their fawns in fields while they search for food, while the does in fact leave their fawns in the fields while they search for their food, which leaves them susceptible to getting killed by agricultural machinery. China's X-Robots factory makes humanoid robots with the help of AI. The company focuses on using AI to recognize and express human emotions. Making robots for museum displays, the company hopes to use them in healthcare and education sector. A newlywed couple hiked up a holy mountain in Mecca before starting their Hajj pilgrimage. Also known as the Mountain of Light, Mount Al-Nur includes Hira Cave, where Muslim Prophet Muhammad is believed to have received his first revelation. And still to come on DD India News Hour. More than 1,000 animals have perished after a fire ripped through a famous market in Thailand. NATO's eastern flank leaders arrived in Riga, Latvia to attend the B9 summit. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg is also taking part in the summit.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, the newly inaugurated cabinet of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi got down to work on Tuesday as the ministers assumed charge of their different departments. DD India's Mihir Makri gets you the details.
The day after the cabinet portfolios of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led NDA government were allocated, Tuesday saw the ministers assuming their charges. BJP stalwart Amit Shah assumed charge as India's Home Minister on Tuesday in New Delhi, marking his second consecutive term in this role. Later, he also took charge as the Minister of Cooperation. BJP National President JP Nadda assumed charge as India's Health Minister and Minister of Chemicals and Fertilizers. Dr. S. Jaishankar assumed office as the External Affairs Minister for his second consecutive term. Following his appointment, Minister Jaishankar outlined strategies for managing relations with India's two closest neighbors, China and Pakistan.
चीन के बारे में हम तो हमारी फोकस तो होगी कि सीमा में जो स्थिति जो है उसमें अभी भी कुछ इश्यूज बाकी बचे हुए हैं, तो उसको कैसे निपटाया जाए। और पाकिस्तान के साथ ये भी आप जानते हैं कि विषय जो है सालों से वो जो आतंकवाद का विषय जो है, cross border terrorism, how do we find a solution to it so that that cannot be the policy of a good neighbor.
Tuesday also saw Ashwini Vaishnav assuming responsibility for both the Ministry of Railways and the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting.
प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की सरकार जो आशीर्वाद दिया है जनता ने मोदी जी को, उस आशीर्वाद को फलीभूत करने के लिए उसी भावना के साथ, जनता की सेवा की भावना के साथ काम करें।
Former Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who was inducted as a cabinet minister in the PM Modi-led government, took charge as the Minister of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare. Former Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar also assumed charge as the Minister of Power and the Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs. Kiran Rijiju assumed charge as the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Minister of Minority Affairs. The ministers assumed their roles after PM Modi, along with 71 ministers, took the oath for a third consecutive term at the President's house on Sunday. Mihir Makri, DD, India.
Let's talk about how there's been continuity, not just in terms of how Prime Minister Modi has come back to power, but also in terms of different ministries. And one, of course, case in point is India's External Affairs Ministry as well. Dr. Jaishankar returning to that office today. To talk about it, we have with us Ashok Sajjanhar, former senior diplomat. Good evening to you, Mr. Sajjanhar. What do you make of how this sort of a continuity has been maintained, and the kind of things that Dr. Jaishankar had to say will be his focus for the coming 100 days, which is a major sort of a landmark position that the government has taken in terms of transformation of the country?
Thank you very much, Gautam, for having me on your show. You're very right. I think the foreign policy of the Modi government for the last 10 years has been one of its strongest suits. And the continuation of Dr. S. Jaishankar as the External Affairs Minister, I think very clearly demonstrates and declares that the foreign policy is going to be assertive, it's going to be principled. And what Dr. Jaishankar said in his opening remarks to the media was that there are two maxims that are going to determine the foreign policy that India is going to observe. One of them is Bharat first, of course, as far as India's security, territorial integrity, sovereignty is concerned, as far as its economic growth is concerned. That will be the first priority as far as the government is concerned. And the second maxim objective of the policy is going to be Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means that while we are focused, while India is focused on development of its own people, that our people should have a better standard of living, way of living. But we are also mindful of our global responsibilities because we treat the whole world as one family. So I think it's going to be a continuation of the same foreign policy, the very successful, I think it's been an unqualified success, and it's continuation of the same. But there are huge challenges, and he did mention challenge of dealing with China, challenge of dealing with Pakistan, and I'm sure the country will continue to deal successfully with those challenges also.
Yes, and in terms of working on them further, we've seen we haven't had Prime Minister Modi being congratulated by any of the top leaders of China. It's just the Chinese Foreign Ministry that sort of took that responsibility on, and fittingly the spokesperson of the Indian External Affairs Ministry also responded to that. And in terms of Pakistan, different leaders, the incumbent Prime Minister having a different sort of a greeting, and his older brother, the former Prime Minister, having a different sort of a tone to that greeting as well.
Yeah, you're very right. I think these are very valid points, valid issues that you have raised. One, as far as China is concerned, and I think these are normal diplomatic practices. These are normal diplomatic courtesies and proprieties, and that is what we have done. When China said that from the Foreign Office, the response also from here was on from the Foreign Office, and we said that once we have mutual respect, mutual sensitivity, and mutual interests are respected, then of course we can look forward to normal relations. We have made it very clear to China that unless there is peace and tranquility at the line of actual control on our borders, we cannot have business as usual. So I think the ball is very much in China's court, because it is China which violated the agreements of 1993 and 1996, which demanded, which both the sides agreed that there will be no stationing of a large number of troops or heavy equipment on the line of actual control. As far as Pakistan is concerned, you're right, Gautam, when you say Shehbaz Sharif, who's the incumbent prime minister, he sent a very bland and a very brief and a short message of congratulation to the prime minister. I think it was even as far as diplomatic propriety is concerned, it was found wanting, and the prime minister himself also responded in an equally bland and very brief message. But the message from Nawaz Sharif was warmer. I think both the leaders know each other. They have worked together with each other. And I think it was during Nawaz Sharif's time that we did see some hope, some silver lining that we could have better relations, but then he was removed by the army. So there, I think also the Prime Minister's response was longer and was more substantive, in which he said that peace and security of the people of India will be our first priority. When Nawaz Sharif had mentioned that we can replace hate with hope. But I think the moot point is, Gautam, as to where is this hate coming from, because it is the fundamental issue in terms of improving ties with Pakistan is the presence of cross-border terrorism, which India has to contend with from Pakistan, and that is not what normal neighbors do. So unless there is a stoppage to that, I think we can have normal relations with Pakistan also.
Yes, there's no indication of that in terms of what we've seen recently in Raisi as well. But let's talk about how there's continuity in the overall government as well. And do you think the kind of report that the World Bank has just given today, not just in terms of the kind of projection that is given for the world's overall economic performance, which is not that positive, it's stabilizing, it said, but not getting back to pre-pandemic levels. But it said that India still remains the fastest growing major economy in the world, and it will do so for the next coming years as well, 3 years at least, in apart from this financial year. So do you think that it really bodes well for not just India but the entire world, and the world can draw a lot of positives from that?
No, absolutely. I think when India's economy grows, India is able to have greater capacity, greater possibility of playing a much more proactive and much more effective role as far as global affairs are concerned. I think you would see that, 10 years ago, we were the 10th or 11th largest economy. Today, we are the 5th largest economy. We should be getting on to becoming the 3rd largest economy in another couple of years. And that increases India's capacity. What India was able to do, let's say during the COVID-19 pandemic, India was able to supply more than 300 million doses of the COVID vaccines to more than 100 countries. We were able to supply medicines to more than 150 countries, most of them on gratis basis. And then even in our neighborhood, we started our own vaccination, you would recall, on the 16th of January 2021. And we started supplying the vaccines in our neighborhood to Bangladesh, to Nepal, to Bhutan on the 20th January itself, that is within 4 days. None of the developed countries was able to do that. They were hoarding these vaccines and these medicines.
Yes.
Also, when we had the financial problem in Sri Lanka, India was the first country, in fact, the only country which came forward, which provided it with medicine, provided it with fertilizer, with food and energy, and gave the guarantee that it will stand for its debt, after which only the IMF was able to support it. So the point I'm making is that when India's economy grows, it is not only for the benefit of the Indian people, for the Indian nation, but our global responsibilities, we take them also very seriously, and we support other countries. So definitely India's external foreign policy, external relations will gather that much more heft and more traction when India's economy grows. And India is today the only a ray of hope as far as the global gloomy economic environment is concerned.
Well, let's hope that ray only brightens further as we go along. It's just the start of the third term of the Modi government. Lots still to be done. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Ashok Sajanhar. Now, Mohan Charan Majhi will be the first BJP or Bharatiya Janata Party Chief Minister of Odisha, as the 24-year-old tenure of Biju Janata Dal Chief Naveen Patnaik ended following a massive defeat in the recent state assembly elections. Chief Minister of Odisha was selected at the BJP Legislature Party meeting, which was attended by Union Ministers Rajnath Singh and Bhupendra Yadav as observers. More than 1,000 exotic animals were killed in a fire that spread through an animal market in Thailand in the early hours of Tuesday. Firefighting teams rushed to the location to contain the blaze. Primary investigation showed electrical fault as the cause of the blaze. An initial inspection has suggested that the fire was caused by an electrical fault. That's what the police superintendent has said. Latvia's President Edgar Rinkēvičs has hailed NATO's Eastern Flank Summit as historic, as it included the latest members of the alliance, Finland and Sweden, to discuss pressing security issues including Russia and Belarus. At a joint news conference after the meeting in Riga, Poland's President Andrzej Duda said NATO allies from Romania, Poland and Latvia, part of the Eastern Flank, were deeply concerned about Russia's malign hybrid activities. The Bucharest Nine includes Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania and Slovakia. And still to come on DD India News Hour, Elon Musk warns he would ban Apple devices at his companies if the iPhone maker integrates OpenAI at the operating system level.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, billionaire Elon Musk said on Monday he would ban Apple devices at his companies if the iPhone maker integrates OpenAI at the operating system level. In a series of posts on X, Musk wrote, and I quote, "If Apple integrates OpenAI at the OS level, then Apple devices will be banned at my companies. That is an unacceptable security violation." Musk also mentioned that visitors will have to check their Apple devices at the door, where they will be stored in a Faraday cage. A Faraday cage is a shield or an enclosure that blocks all the digital signals from coming in or going out. The billionaire made the statement following Apple's announcement that it is partnering with OpenAI, a move which, according to Musk, is a violation of data security. An Indian delegation led by IMD Director General Dr. M. Mahapatra participated in World Meteorological Organization Executive Council 78 meeting at Geneva in Switzerland. Dr. Mahapatra, who also holds the Vice Presidency of the World Meteorological Organization, chaired a session on scientific and technical programs. World Meteorological Organization appreciated IMD for providing tropical cyclone advisories in the Bay of Bengal, the Arabian Sea as well as South Asia, especially for Cyclone Mocha and Cyclone Ramal. All India Council for Technical Education with Indian Institute of Technology Bombay, Delhi, Kanpur, Hyderabad, Indian Institute of Science Bangalore and Centre for Cellular and Molecular Platforms have come together in a collaboration with Vadhvani Foundation to sign Memorandum of Understanding to establish centres of excellence throughout India. This significant move will accelerate the research commercialization in academic institutions and innovations. This partnership aims to accelerate homegrown research and discoveries to create an ecosystem that provides inclusive and equitable solutions for emerging technologies.
This is a very important collaboration. Looking into the setting up of the Anusandhan National Research Foundation, where we expect research and innovation funding coming from sources outside the government. So where we are looking at partnerships with foundations, with philanthropy, with diaspora, from industry. So I think this marks the beginning of a journey. This is really a watershed event. It will really be eye-opener to the rest of the ecosystem. This is also indicator of the fact that partnerships and collaborations are the way through which India would actually move forward by leveraging the strengths that we have in pockets, which come together and use science to provide solutions to the people.
We are looking at two main things coming out of this initiative. In the beginning, we are looking at, can we support 1,000 projects every year through their translation journey in both of these partnerships. Second is to truly build a massive ecosystem. India has 40,000 colleges. So just having output from 100 colleges is not enough. So we are building capacity and competency in thousands of other colleges to look at deep tech research that is also translatable.
Let's now tell you what's been happening in the world and India as far as the build-up to the International Yoga Day is concerned. A group of senior citizens in Idukki district of Kerala are practicing yoga to prevent lifestyle diseases. Senior citizens are conveying the message that age is not a factor determining the ability to practice yoga. They are elders above the age of 80 years too, and they say that learning and the practice of yoga has brought about immense positive changes in their lives.
I started practicing yoga some 15 years back. Before that, I was facing many health issues, especially uneasiness in breathing. After rigorous yoga practice, I could overcome the breathing problem and could attain good health.
I got flexibility of body within some days of yoga practice. I could overcome my physical ailments. I felt energetic and become healthy. I think the secret of my health is yoga practice.
Now, many senior citizens are living alone in their houses as their children are settled in foreign countries. Yoga practice helps them to overcome stress issues.
The media plays an instrumental role in amplifying the message of yoga both within India and abroad. And in order to recognize the immense power and responsibility, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has announced the third edition of Antarashtriya Yoga Divas Media Samman 2024. Acknowledging the positive role and responsibility of the media in disseminating the message of yoga, the ministry has instituted the first Antarashtriya Yoga Divas Media Samman in June 2019. Under the International Yoga Day Media Awards or Honours 2024, 33 Sammans will be given out under 3 categories, that is print, television and radio in 22 Indian languages and English. A curtain raiser yoga event was organized in Chittagong in Bangladesh on Tuesday ahead of the International Yoga Day 2024. The Assistant High Commissioner of India in Chittagong organized the event in synchronization with Inayat Bazar Mohila College and Quantum Foundation on the theme of Yoga for Women Empowerment. More than 150 students ardently participated in the yoga sessions and most of them were girl students. Another International Yoga Day pre-event was organized at Notre Dame College in Dhaka. The Indira Gandhi Cultural Centre, High Commission of India in Dhaka organized the event in collaboration with the Notre Dame College. Large number of students and teachers participated in the protocol yoga session. The Indian Navy's indigenous stealth frigate INS Shivalik arrived in Yokosuka in Japan to participate in the 8th edition of the bilateral Japan-India Maritime Exercise JIMEX 2024. The exercise includes both harbour and sea phases. The harbour phase will comprise professional, sports and social interactions, after which the two navies will jointly hone their warfighting skills at sea and enhance their interoperability through complex multidisciplinary operations in the surface, subsurface and air domains. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code that was on the screen to download the app as well. And we'll be back with more news and updates as a break here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.